In the city of Nanjing, China, lived a little girl named May. This girl is a talented mathematician who can solve very complicated math problems in your head. She also had a great memory and never forgot any series of numbers she came across. One day, while May was walking home with her friends, a group of bragging men suddenly kidnapped her. She was then taken to a Chinese mafia leader named Han. Han's criminal enterprise's digital data could be tracked, so he wanted to use May as his personal mental calculator that could remember the data for him. At first, the little girl refuses to cooperate, but when he threatens to kill her mother, she finally agrees to do as she is told. Under the care of their trusted gang member named Chong, May is taken to New York where she is hidden as his daughter. Elsewhere in New Jersey, an ex-cop and street fighter named Luke is in a heated match with his opponent. The fight was actually organized and Luke had to lose to his opponent, but he accidentally throws a death blow to his opponent that puts him in a coma. The victory angers the head of the Russian mafia named Emil, who lost millions of dollars because of Luke. Luke realizes that an angry gangster means his family is now in danger. He then rushes home, but is too late because Vasily, the son of the gangster leader, has killed his pregnant wife. Knowing his wife and future baby were murdered, Luke is devastated, and although he can fight back, he cannot. The gangsters then vowed to kill anyone he spoke to or came into contact with Luke. After that fateful event, Luke returned to his hometown in New York. He began living as a homeless man and wandering the streets of Manhattan. 1 year later, May was still working with the gang. Chong took her on weekly walks in Chinatown. She memorized the percentage of net profit or loss each shop faced. The shopkeepers were supposed to pay the gang a sum of money according to their profits, so May proved to be a useful asset to them. Throughout his time working with the gang, he has learned a lot about how business works in the gangster world. Elsewhere, Luke lives in a very disorganized homeless shelter. One night, he met a man with no shoes and a badly infected foot. Out of sympathy, he gives the man his new shoes. But the next day, he wakes up to find that someone slit the poor man's throat and stole his shoes overnight. Meanwhile, a woman working with Chong approached May in the middle of the night and told her about her mother's death in China. It turns out that she is seriously ill and has been hospitalized for a long time. The next day, gangster leader Han comes to New York for the first time since he sent May. He comes with a piece of paper with a series of numbers on it. Ask May to memorize the numbers, which she does in less than 10 seconds. The numbers seem to be very important as Han burns the piece of paper to ashes, so only May knows what they are. After that, Chong took her to the next location. May was told that she had to memorize the second set of numbers when she reached the destination. Everything goes according to plan until they are attacked by the Russian mafia led by Emil, the gangster who killed Luke's wife. They are also targeting May because of the numbers she has memorized. So a shootout ensues where the Chinese gangsters lose to the Russians who kidnap May. Elsewhere, Luke is having a bad day as a passerby steals his breakfast money. While trying to buy something, he runs into a former police colleague. The man instantly recognizes Luke and takes him to an abandoned building with his fellow cops. Way back in the day, Luke debunked their corrupt ways of helping the local gangsters. The police are still angry with him for getting them in trouble back then. They beat him up and insulted him, but he didn't retaliate.
Luke, right. We were a team.
In the end, a policeman handed Luke a gun, urging him to end his own life. But Luke refused and left.
She just ended.
At the same time, May is brought to the Russian gang leader Emil, who asks about her number. She soon discovers that the woman who told her about her mother helps Emil all the time. The woman also asks May to tell them the code, but instead, May claims that the woman will die because she doesn't know how the business works. Right after that, the men shot her dead because she was no longer useful to them. May knew she would suffer the same fate if she told them the number. Therefore, she kept quiet. Just then, a corrupt cop and one of Luke's former colleagues, Captain Wolf, came to the Russian hideout to arrest the criminals. However, he does so not because of the law, but on the orders of the Chinese leader Han. Emil then called the captain and offered him twice the money of the Chinese gangsters to escape from his hideout. The corrupt captain finally accepted the deal and backed down. By this time, May had escaped from the hideout without anyone seeing her. Both Russian and Chinese gangsters start looking for her, hoping to find her before the other group does. May finally reached the subway station where Luke would end his life. Seconds away from jumping onto the tracks, her eyes are suddenly drawn to the frightened little girl May. He also noticed the gangsters who killed his wife were looking for the little girl. To escape from them, he takes the subway, but the gang catches a glimpse of him and follows behind. Luke realizes something is wrong and makes it his mission to save the girl. He locks the subway and kills all the Russians on his way. One of them recognizes Luke as the man they beat up a year ago. It then leaves him dumbfounded as to how someone so subservient could defeat all of his men in a matter of minutes. In the end, he too is killed, and Luke finally meets May. He also learned that the girl was also wanted by the corrupt police who would definitely hand her over to the mafia. A few minutes later, the two cops who beat Luke up earlier found the girl and tried to take her away. But Luke arrived at the right time and took them down in an instant. Proving that he was silent only because he wanted to be. But here May still doesn't trust Luke because she thinks he's still a gangster. They then got into a car when the Russian mafia arrived. A high-speed car chase ensues through the streets of Manhattan. Eventually, Luke kills all the Russians, steals their wallets.
Let's go. You okay?
Elsewhere, the captain learns that May was taken by force, not by the mafia, but by Luke. He is shocked as Luke has not been involved in any crime since he left the police force. Meanwhile, after checking in at the hotel, May starts to trust Luke and tells him about the numbers she memorized. On checking the format of the numbers, she learned that it was the combination of the safe. May says she should have memorized the second number before the Russians attacked, which means there are two safes with something very valuable inside, which might be traded by the Chinese mafia. At that time, Chong found out May's location using an unsophisticated tracking device on his mobile phone. He and his men arrive at the hotel and start a shootout. Eventually, Luke gets into a fight with the gangsters, which causes him and May to split up. Chong arrests her while Luke escapes before he is killed. He knows that he can't leave May alone and is ready to do anything to get her back to safety. So, he calls the Russian leader's son, Vasily, from the phone he stole earlier. Vasily is also the man who killed Luke's wife a year ago. Luke pretends to be a member of their gang and claims that he has the number that everyone is looking for. Vasily believes him and calls him to the casino to deliver the number. Elsewhere, the mayor calls the corrupt police captain into his office to discuss all the shootings. It turns out that he and his girlfriend Alex are just as corrupt as the others. The mayor reveals that Luke is no ordinary cop. In fact, he is a CIA agent deliberately on loan to the police force. When he was in the police force, he and his former partner Alex killed several crime bosses in an attempt to enforce order. However, Luke had to quit after exposing the corrupt ways of the captain and his squad. Alex stayed behind and seduced the mayor to get to where he is now. The captain finally realizes that the man he thought was a loser is actually the most dangerous enemy he has ever had. Now, Luke's former partner, Alex, is the mayor's girlfriend, who is as corrupt as he is. When the mayor is told about May with Luke, he instantly becomes nervous. And it looks like he knows something about the safe and the combination on it. Meanwhile, May is brought back to Leader Han, who asks if she told the combination to anyone else. But she lies and insists that she pretended not to understand English. Chong then calls Alex and tells him that May is with them, so they can continue the meeting. It is later revealed that the people trying to do business with the Chinese mafia are the mayor and Alex's boyfriend. They are trading unknown contents from their respective safes. Next, Luke arrives at the casino where he finds the Russian gangsters. He ambushes all of Vasily's henchmen and takes them hostage. Luke planned to use him to threaten the Russian leader Emil. He then calls Emil and asks him about the contents of the safe in exchange for his son's life. Emil reveals that the safe with the Chinese gangster has $30 million in it, while the safe with the mayor has something commensurate with the aforementioned money. The parties were going to trade using the little girl, but the Russian mafia stepped in and ruined the plan. However, this time the Chinese managed to have May back, so the plan is back on track. On the other hand, Chong went to meet Alex and exchange codes. Now, the only way for Luke to save the girl is to get $30 million from the Chinese mafia before the trade is made. But he can't do it alone, as the safe is hidden deep inside Chinatown and protected by the most dangerous of the Chinese gangsters. So, he asked for help from his former police colleagues. They then agreed to help him as long as the money was split equally.
Remember that next time, you little trigger finger.
Cambered indeed. The group then broke into the hideout and started a shootout. On the way, several gangsters and cops die. When they finally reach the locker, Luke betrays the police and shoots them dead, except for the captain, whom he takes hostage with Vasily. He also takes the money from the safe and goes to the mayor's office. On his way, he calls Alex and asks what's in the second safe. Since Luke has money, Alex is bound to do everything he asks. He reveals the second safe belongs to the mayor, containing a disc with data on every crime syndicate in New York. The mayor wants to sell it to the Chinese, take $30 million, and let the gangs deal with what they have to. Alex is about to strike a deal with Chong, but since the money has been stolen, she instead tries to get back to Luke. But Luke ordered him to bring May because she was an important asset. Disini Alex Comedian Minjakoti Parina Luke Untuk Membuna Chong Dan Anik Bwanya. Dan Comedian Sajida Pergi Minimwi Luke Bersama May. On the other hand, Luke walks in the mayor's office and asks for the contents of the second safe. Despite the mayor's reluctance, he has no choice but to give Luke a disc containing data on every crime syndicate in New York. Luke drops it and returns to see Alex as promised. With his money and information, he is the most powerful in this game, but Alex has something even more special in May. When the two finally meet to exchange May for money, Luke refuses to cooperate, instead suggesting that they settle it with a fist fight. Alex gets ready to gather his conquering moves, but just then he is shot in the leg by May. The opportunity is then seized by Luke, kills him easily. He and May were finally free with money and discs that they could use for protection. For May's safety, Luke released the captain with $50,000 as compensation for his trouble. He also let Vasily go, so the Russians wouldn't do anything against them. Luke also sent all the remaining money to the Chinese mafia, so that they would not try to find May again. Eventually, he hid several copies of the disc all over the city. If someone tries to harm them, they can use the drive as a way to blackmail some powerful people. In the final scene, May and Luke went to Seattle and started their new life safely and peacefully.